Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Football Update. This is Andy.
And this is Robin.
So, a lot of crazy stuff going on in the NFL and the football world in general. Robin, what kind of things are going on this week?
So, the one team that we talk the most about, because we're in the area, the Buffalo Bills, they went to the bye week 6-6, roller coaster season up and down, other than Josh Allen making plays. A lot of weird stuff going on, and you would have thought, the bye week would be kind of a week where stuff doesn't happen, and then you have the Von Miller arrest, and, that's still legally getting sorted out. He's available to play. Piece by Ty Dunn of GoLongTD.com today about just some of the stuff, issues McDermott has had in communication with players and things like that. And McDermott did address one story today in it. But yeah, it just feels like a lot of weird stuff going on with the Bills, and you would have thought, this is the week to get everything together before the stretch run, and normally they're great after bye weeks, but just feels like another weird week and in maybe the weirdest Bills year in a long time. Andy, what do you think of their entire situation right now? And do you have faith that on and off the football field they can get it together?
I think. I'll touch on the two big off the field, I should say. Things going on in the news, but just to start off with the team, I'm beyond impressed with the offense has been doing under Joe Brady. I think we kind of talked about it during the season, before the season, how Dorsey, he had great plans, teams on paper, but he never could adapt.
Yeah.
And sooner or later the defenses catch up to him, and he just never makes adjustments and all that stuff. And he didn't. The only reason Kincaid was really coming into his own was Dawson got injured.
Yeah.
So it's just great to see we almost beat the Eagles. Overtime if Gabe Davis didn't miss that route. But there's some issues going on with McDermott's play calling, and they're saying he's too conservative. Whatever happens, I just gotta say, I'm forever grateful for what he's done for the Bills. Giving us, Urinating Tree had this great YouTube video, The Walking Mediocrity. That's just, we're not bad enough to get early draft picks, but we're always in the mid tier. But just with things, maybe I'd give him one more year just because, just because Joe Brady does seem like they'd be like a good coordinator, and if not Brady, maybe Frank Reich. Just someone to unlock Josh. It's just part of my friend. That's the bitch of it. It seems a little too late. And I think I know it's officially 50%, but just looking at the strength of schedule for the other teams, I think it's going to be 50-50 if the Bills make it in.
If they play at their level, I kind of agree with you there. And they haven't lost after a bye under McDermott, so this is the time for them to pick it up. But it does seem like a lot outside of the games going on. But
for who knows, maybe the Jets might finally show up in the next 2 weeks, having Rodgers back, in the building is more frequent and stuff like that, because there's a lot of big games coming up with certain teams, who knew we're actually rooting for the Jets this weekend? They're playing Houston, they're going to play the Browns in a few weeks, which could be good for us. I pray to God that man is not worsen his injury, but who knows? Maybe Rodgers could actually light it up.
Yeah, and speaking of the Jets, they again have kind of an end of season, collapse and a bunch of off-field stuff going on. Zach Wilson a couple weeks ago gets benched, and it's all it talks as if, that the Zach Wilson era is over, we're moving forward, and we'll talk about what he's to the team at the end of the regular season. Then Tim Boyle plays for a couple games. Doesn't go very well. With a bit of Trevor Siemian. And then this week, there's a report that comes out from The Athletic. Diana Rossini comes out and says that Zach Wilson was reluctant to play, even though they were giving him the job back. And then, the Jets have since tried to deny the whole thing, including Aaron Rodgers. And now Tim Boyle gets cut. Zach Wilson gets a chance at the job back. What do you think of the entire situation with the Jets, including, Aaron Rodgers' guys that he's brought in, Tim Boyle, Alan Lazard not coming up to what, his expectations were, Dalvin Cook being brought in, not doing much. I'm trying to think, Randall Cobb, obviously another Packer great, former Packer great that was brought in. What do you think of this Jet situation? Is it salvageable next year? Do you think all the big names and big pieces of the coaching staff and players still are there?
I think if he does decent enough, I still think you should let the kid cook under Rodgers, because he does. There's been a few games or parts of games where he's played better. And the other thing I will say to him is, they have the worst or one of the worst offensive lines in the whole
yeah.
I've been watching games, and this Zach Wilson doesn't even have 3 or 4 seconds where he just popped, So it's going to be interesting. I still can't believe that Rodgers is going to try to play at the end of the year. I mean, more power to him. I'm scared for Rodgers, future, but they thought this year was all or nothing. I think they're really going to actively try to get maybe Adams next year. It's going to be very interesting offseason for the Jets. I will say, and then just to circle back before we go forward, the Bills, the two big things. First I want to mention the McDermott comments about 9/11. Bad taste.
Yeah,
but I think I'm personally going through some mental health stuff, so I do know that sometimes in your head something is a good idea to say, and in hindsight, I've heard so much about McDermott as a person. I just think he made a mistake. He did talk about it, but again, don't get me wrong, in bad taste, absolutely. But I don't think that should end his football career.
Yeah. Today. Oh no. Yeah.
On the Von Miller thing, I'm 50-50 because I'm fully believing of due process. That I don't I've had a lot going on the past week or two, so I haven't been deep into it as I usually am. But do you want to go into the details of the Von Miller stuff? Yeah.
So initially, it was an arrest warrant out for his arrest, middle of last week, and the reports or the warrant and the reports around it very disturbing. Bruises around arm, neck, pulling of hair, things like that. Which is very tough to read and hear. But again, everything is, in this, as of now, is accusation based. And then the girlfriend of his that was involved has since said it was, overblown or nothing very much happened. But there's, the arrest report, the 911 call, which potentially says otherwise. So it's, again, something that's going through, again, the legal process. And the parallel between his situation, Matt Ariza, that's always going to get brought up, and the Ariza situation, that was, a lawsuit. There wasn't, any arrest going on, but the accusations were troubling. And I think it was Tim Graham of The Athletic, who's been around Buffalo Bills football for a long time, had said that Ariza may have not been fully truthful about the entire situation of the Bills, because it included the, allegation of not only sexual conduct, but also the woman at the time being underage. But we've since found that accusation was, very flawed, and now it's still kind of going through the legal process, but it wasn't fully truthful. But and in both situations, a person's reputation is on the line. And one case, they let the guy immediately go, even though they didn't being tried to explain it as, we're not judge, jury. Where in the case of Von Miller, they're keeping him around, and he's saying that, people can be accused of a lot of things, and we're not, able to do anything. But there's salary cap implications with Von Miller that obviously weren't with Ariza. But those are like the big details on it, if you wanted to expound on your point any further.
I'm kind of torn. I think Brandon Beam said it best. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You got, because I think, if they did suspend him, you would have half the fans up in arms still. It's just one of those touchy things, and just maybe hopefully until this stuff comes to resolve, we can just maybe relax and watch football. I know that's rough to say, but I'm not an investigator, but I will say until more information comes out, if I do recall also, the Matt Ariza investigation was further through at that point before they made a decision. But it's pardon my French, it's a bitch either way.
Yeah, in case of the before we move on to the other thing, one idea would be that people have presented is that Von Miller hasn't been productive on the field regardless of this thing going on. Hasn't put up any sacks. Doesn't look like the same player before he had the injury last year. Would it just make sense and be easier to have him enact everything? The problem with that is that does a players' association come in and say, no, you can't do that? And I feel like in both instances, the commissioner's exempt list could have been an option. But in the case of Ariza, I think there's some NFLPA rule where if the conduct's in college, you can't, punish a player, suspend a player, put them on the exemption list for the conduct in college. And then the NFL's explanation this time around for Von Miller was there were no formal charges, even though there was an arrest warrant. So it seems a little odd, but I don't know if you want to say anything more with that info in mind, or...
From a playing perspective, I really think I heard he took his brace off recently. I really think this month where he was going to really start to stride a bit, but we'll have to see.
Yeah.
But again, at this point of the year, until until all more stuff comes out, unclearly can suspend him. I just say let it ride. Maybe not put him in until he proves it to be in those big game moments, but throughout the games, maybe sprinkle him in a little more.
Yeah. I think both of us can kind of agree on the point that's we'd rather not be talking about this, but this is something that both revolves around the team and in the world. So it's it's unfortunate, but going forward, you had mentioned Frank Reich a little bit ago, and he got let go a couple weeks ago by the Carolina Panthers, 11 games into the season, and into his tenure, which is somehow too shorter than Urban Meyer. A lot of reports about, I think it was The Athletic with Joe Person and Diana Rossini as well, just a lot of that dysfunction with the Panthers organization and David Tepper, the owner, basically suggesting how footwork should be for the quarterback, certain assistant coaches telling the owner this, that, and the other, and then the new interim coming in and letting go of assistants like Josh McCown, a quarterback coach, and Deuce Staley. What do you think of the situation, if not a mess, in Carolina, and do you think Bryce Young can survive it?
The first thing with Frank, just two head coaching jobs where he's just had, like where things kind of fell through their arms control. Like, you had a generational. He built that offense for the Colts around Andrew Luck, and you saw how good they were that first year with Luck, and then Luck retired, and it was like they tried doing Band-Aids, and just, I think it's just the ownership got frustrated and let him go, That's how it goes, because it takes a few years for a team to unbuild around a quarterback like Luck, and then like we're mentioning now with Tepper, like Tepper's been fired like 5 or 6 interim head coaches / head coaches, or been through 6 coaches or something like that. I saw somewhere, and he's very hands-on in my opinion, especially if the rumors are true. Like I still think Stroud would have had a bad year this year if he was with Panthers, because there's, other than Thielen and maybe Hubbard, there's no weapon at all. Yeah, Miles Sanders,
that move didn't work out. Unfortunately, Hayden Hurst with injury, and best wishes to him with the I think it was the post amnesia response to brain injury. So hopefully, he gets that sorted out. But yeah, go ahead.
The last thing we'll say about Young is that if they get the right person there and actually really do a good job, like I know their first round pick's gone, but like they have their second still, right?
Yep, second. Yep, a decent amount of cap space, but you're thinking some of that, if not a decent amount, it's going to go to Brian Burns to make sure he doesn't get to free agency. But
and here's the good news: you have a still young rookie. I've seen plenty of rookie. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Peyton Manning, but Peyton had a terrible first year. Maybe it's like the Jaguars of last year, where oh my goodness,
Doug Peterson, yep.
They're not as thick of talent as they are this year, but you bring a couple pieces here and there to add on, and you can have a slightly better season. I think. Like, if Stroud was drafted by the Panthers, I think they might have had a couple more wins, maybe. And again, nothing to knock Young. I'm sure he can be a great quarterback, but like C.J. Stroud is just this decade's kind of Andrew Luck, just like out of the gate, just more than Andrew Luck. He is I think since the 50s, he's the first QB to lead the league in passing. So
he's playing incredible. Yeah.
But what was the next thing you wanted to talk about, Robin?
So let's see. Another coaching staff under fire. The Washington Commanders. They had an embarrassing past couple games, but especially on national TV with the Thanksgiving Day loss to the Cowboys, and after the game, Jack Del Rio let go as defensive coordinator, and the following week on Sunday versus the Dolphins, get blown up by 30. Terry McLaurin doesn't catch a pass. Says after the game he ran a bunch of cardio when asked about it, so obviously not happy there. Jonathan Allen saying, he'd love to win Washington, but, if he can't win there, he'd like to find somewhere he can actually win. Do you think the Ron Rivera era is coming to an end in Washington?
I think it is at this point. Like, I thought in the beginning of the year, if they could have made it to the playoffs, I think his job would have been safe. He's just been there for so long, and under bad, owner, like probably the worst owner in NFL history, tonight. Yeah. What you do after you've been there a while, you can only, I think, do so much, and it's just, sometimes it is what it is, But I do think I think his time is up by the end of the year.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Quick segue to the college football playoffs. We have our Final Four of Alabama, number 4, Texas, number 3, Washington, number 2, Michigan, number 1. So we're going to have Michigan and Bama in the Rose Bowl, and then Washington, Texas in the Sugar Bowl. What do you think of these matchups? And then also the Florida State Seminoles with an undefeated season getting left out somewhat due to their quarterback injuries.
I can't believe I'm actually rooting for Alabama.
Yeah.
My dad's from Ohio, so I'm an Ohio State fan.
Mm-hmm.
So looking forward to next year, definitely, when there's a 12. Oh my God, I cannot wait for a 12 playoff rep, because there will be no controversy this year.
Well, there'll always be the number 13 that'll complain, hey.
But nothing as egregious as what's going on right now in college football. I've seen some people travesty, then you have. I kind of see it from a few. I do get the caveat that is it just their first string quarterback? Is there even second?
There was a second string that got hurt and then couldn't play in the ACC title game, so they went to their third, and then it's potentially that the second would be able to play in the bowl game, but they weren't impressive with either the second or third string guy, whereas you maybe remember as an Ohio State fan when the Buckeyes came in as the 4th seed, and it was controversial at the time because they had their third string quarterback, but they had dominated in the Big Ten championship game against Wisconsin with Cardale Jones, and then ended up winning the entire thing. But
right,
yeah.
So it's a lot of damned if you do, damned if you don't today.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still kind of feel for Florida, though.
Oh, yeah.
But, if there's a team that can run the gauntlet like this with teams left because Georgia's out of there, I think Alabama could.
Oh, yeah.
I'm personally pulling for Texas because I do kind of like Texas. There's certain teams in Texas I love. And my favorite pro wrestler, The Undertaker, that's his favorite team. I don't know if anyone saw. I think the award was for the best Texan college player or something like that.
Oh yeah.
So that was a pretty cool thing to see. But it's going to be an interesting college football championship bowl games. But I think college football, don't get me wrong, the bowl games are always huge around New Year's, but next year will be better. I'm really excited to see what this is going to be potentially. How many weeks there are for this college football next year.
Yeah, it does feel like these playoff games are always great, even before the 12 team that'll be next year. Unfortunately, the rest of the bowl season's kind of marred with teams going. And again, I have no problem with players going to the transfer portal or saying, "Hey, I don't want to risk injury." With the draft upcoming, because we've seen players like Jalen Smith, Willis McGahee, guys like that, a couple months away from making it as big as possible, and then they get some injury and it affects their draft stock and how much they make in their first rookie deals. So, but it's going to be exciting to see those playoff games and see how they, how they sort themselves out. Excited for watching Texas with both teams having creative offense coordinators and 2, if not 3 NFL receivers on both teams. So, but yeah, that's a lot of the big topics. Were there any topics you wanted to broach before the end of the pod? Yep.
The last couple from the college football, this came out a few hours ago. Who knows? Maybe Jim Harbaugh will be gone by that time and it'll be a totally different Michigan team. But excuse me, in about 3 to 4 years, he's going to go to Ann Arbor to play Michigan.
Who was it? Sorry.
The Bulls, the UB Bulls.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Oh yeah, in 2026. Yeah, that'll be very fun.
I think is it? Oh yeah, 2027. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be very interesting. That kind of a little different because that team was not obviously as good as Michigan for the most part. Because they're in the UB's MAC championship. But as a kid, I think I've talked about it before. I gravitated to the Steelers because of the dynasty, and again, I was a kid, so this is why I was a fan of them when he got drafted. My dad took me to UB Bulls game against his old well, he went to both schools, but he went to Miami of Ohio, and he took me to a UV game where Ben Roethlisberger played.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I kind of so it's always cool to see games like that. I don't know why I thought of that, but so the other thing I wanted to mention about college is Cooper Manning the main quarterback right now, or is
he's the Arch Manning? He is the backup. Although I think he was technically third string because when Quinn Ewers, the starter, went down, they had I think a redshirt freshman or redshirt sophomore, Malik Murphy, coming in and play, and I think that was just an experience thing. They didn't want to throw Arch Manning into a big spot where they needed to keep winning to, as they do now, get into the playoff. But anytime he's come in a game they've been blowing out teams, there's always a huge crowd response to even the littlest thing that he does. So not sure he's a quarterback next year or 2 years after, because it sounds like Ewers will stay past this year, but you never know if he wins it all. Will he just say, hey, I'll go make my NFL millions? But it sounds like he wants development, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I know there's rumors about him going to the transfer portal, so that's very interesting to watch in the next few months. But last thing I want to talk about, because it's going to be coming on as we're recording around 8:17, so 5 to 6 minutes, the game tonight.
Yeah.
A game's not very advertised if one of the players is Bill Belichick. So,
yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how they can, maybe they can win it because it's Trubisky playing, but, we're actually rooting for the game.
Yeah.
As well as the Jets this weekend. So, what are your thoughts about this game coming up?
So I did see the inactive list, and the Patriots, inactive was Demario Douglas, the very talented, speedy rookie receiver, Kayshon Boutte, a talented rookie receiver, Devontae Parker, the veteran guy. So they're down to 3 receivers. I think it was Tyquan Thornton. Oh man, I study this game a lot, and anyway, I'm forgetting who's left among those guys. And then you got Zappe at quarterback. I believe that Rondre Stevens out too. So I believe it's the lowest over/under ever put on a game. It's 30. So yeah, it's going to be an ugly slugfest. Mitch Trubisky's the quarterback on the other side. Deontay Johnson's been a bit of a diva the past couple weeks between, the play where he didn't, care about blocking or recovering a fumble against Cincinnati. And then the Arizona game, I'm not sure you saw, where they were down 3 scores and he scores a touchdown with 5 minutes left and has a choreographed, touchdown dance in a game. They're still down 2 scores against a bad team. So there's some iffy vibes with the Steelers. They should be able to win, but this is the type of loss that if it happens, I think there's some pressure put on the Pittsburgh Steeler faithful on ownership to maybe look at moving on from Tomlin, maybe not firing, but trade or something like that. I don't know. As they're your second team, if you have any different opinion of that.
I apologize. One more time?
Oh, so, it's the type of game where if they were to lose, within a week, twice at home to both the Cardinals and the Patriots, there'd be pressure by the fan base on, ownership to maybe move on from Mike Tomlin, as great as he's been. Do you think?
Oh, yeah. I for some reason, I thought you were saying cat. I got it. I'm sorry. My head went there automatically. Being a fan of the Steelers, I don't think it would happen, though. This year. At the very least. Would there be pressure? I think so, but I don't think it'll happen.
Yeah.
And also, you don't have Kenny Pickett playing.
Yeah.
You have Trubisky, so that's another thing. I wouldn't be too surprised if they lost today.
Oof, yeah.
But yeah, that's gonna be our episode for today, guys. Hopefully, we'll get a surprise and have a good football game today.
Yeah.
But yeah, have a good week, guys.
Yep. Thank you. You too.